Hello and welcome back to Wine Reform. So, today we delve back into wines around the world and we're going to Hungary. For the price of one click, you too can be a lovely wine dabbler. So click today. But wait, there's more. For the price of 2 clicks, that's right, 2 clicks. Click the subscribe button and click the bell icon. Then you too will be notified when a video is released. So for the price of 2 clicks, you get to be a lovely wine dabbler and you get notified of new videos indefinitely. So click today. Now we go back to your regularly scheduled programming. So I mentioned we're going to Hungary, but this grape is a little bit different in the sense that it's not a Hungarian grape, it's an Austrian grape. But the wine we got is from Hungary. This one was from Hungary, so bear with me here. Grüner Veltliner is a grape that was born of the cross between the Traminer grape, which some people are familiar with, and the much more obscure Sancta Georgen grape, which is from a very remote spot, and it was very difficult to identify, but they found it. There's no connection between Grüner Veltliner and other Veltliners. However, they share that similar name. Don't know why, they just do. So Grüner Veltliner ripens in mid to late October in the northern hemisphere, and it likes cooler climates with more moisture. So Grüner Veltliner is kind of falls into 2 camps. There's the much fresher, younger, crisper Grüner Veltliner, and then there's the more age-worthy, sort of spicy, stone fruity Grüner Veltliner. So you can get anything from citrus like lemon peel, and grapefruit to stone fruit like apricot, peaches, especially apricot. And you also get some vegetal notes, and because it has a little bit of spice, that tends to come through for most people as a white pepper. So the expression of Grüner Veltliner really does vary depending on where that grape was grown and whether or not it was one of those age-worthy wines and how it was aged. But in general, the warmer the climate, the more stone fruit you're gonna get. So, cool stuff. I mentioned that this is actually an Austrian grape, but the one we are trying is from Hungary. I'm going to start with talking about its most famous regions in Austria where it's grown. So the most well-known regions for Grüner Veltliner are in Austria, as I mentioned, and they are above the Danube River. So those are Wachau, Klemstal, and Kamptal. It's kind of a poster child behind Riesling for Austria, but it also grows quite a bit in Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Hungary. There are also plantings of Grüner Veltliner in northern Italy, in parts of the US like the Finger Lakes, and there's also some in New Zealand and Australia. However, it has been found to do very well in this deep loess soil. So that's kind of a silty sediment that is made up of a windblown sand and clay and silt and dust. But it's often very sandy and very damp. So it's an interesting kind of soil. Oh, and it's bound by calcium carbonate. That's actually very important. So this very important loess soil is actually found all throughout the Pannonian Basin. And if any of you guys are familiar with geography, then you've probably seen it on a topographic map. It's really cool and kind of hard to miss when you're, looking at those hills and valleys. It's beautiful. But the Pannonian Basin is a landmass that is flanked by the Carpathian Mountains and the Alps, and it really does form a basin. So I recommend taking a look at it. It's really cool to actually see that. Yeah, I think it's really cool. And the regions in which Grüner Veltliner is most widely grown, those are in the Pannonian Basin. So it's pretty cool. Now, I've been talking, again, I mentioned that it's most known in Austria, but it does grow in Hungary. So I think now we're going to switch gears and talk about Grüner Veltliner in Hungary. So Hungary is definitely more known for their dessert wines, but as I've mentioned in a video where we tried Hungarian wine before, we tried a ferment from Tokaj. Younger winemakers are actually coming in and they're trying to make those drier, fresher, crisper styles that kind of appeal to the global market. So the Grüner Veltliner we are trying today is a dry wine as well. And I did actually choose this particular one because I have found that Grüner Veltliner that is not from Austria is definitely a bit cheaper. The cheaper Grüner Veltliners I have found have been either from Czech Republic, Slovakia, or Hungary, and I did find one from Hungary, so that's what we're trying. So Grüner Veltliner is one of those grapes that does, it likes things kind of just right. It doesn't like too flat, it doesn't like too hilly, it likes a nice kind of in between. However, you're not going to find much hilliness in the plains of Hungary, so that might be another reason why the Hungarian Grüner Veltliner was a bit cheaper. I suspect, but I don't know for sure. And again, it's not Hungary's claim to fame, so that's probably another reason. So today, we are trying Count Károlyi's Grüner Veltliner from Pannon in Hungary, and this is a 2018 wine. So Pannon is actually one larger wine region that consists of 4 smaller specific sub-regions, if you will. And those are Pécs, Szekszárd, Tolna, and Vilán. And due to the name, yes, these are all part of the Pannonian Basin, so they've got that loess soil. Both Pécs and Tolna have very warm winters and dry summers. Szekszárd is very mild in terms of their seasons. It's kind of doesn't really fluctuate much throughout. And then Vilán has hot summers and warm winters and a lot more moisture. They all have that loess soil, but some of them have a combination of that and something else. So Pécs has pure loess, Szekszárd is loess, sand, clay, and stones, and then Tolna is loess and the more vegetal-rich sort of forest soil. And then finally Vilán has the loess and limestone. So since our Grüner has the wider region of Pannon listed, I'm going to assume that the grapes come from a combination of these 4 smaller regions. Because of this, it's probably going to be very difficult, if impossible to, at least for me, to pick up on any subtle nuances that you would get from wine grown in one specific region, but let's see what we get. I think now is as good a time as any. Let's crack open our Grüner Veltliner. Aren't you a beauty? Whew, that's plenty. Man, it feels so good to be tasting wine. And I can smell it from here. I can already smell it. Like holy wow. Alrighty. So we're back at it, and the first thing we do when evaluating wine is we look at it. So let's get to it. This white wine actually has not so much a lemon yellow color as more of a straw, very, very pale straw yellow color. So that is nice to get a little bit of variation in our color. There's a tad bit of effervescence, which kind of came out of there. And the clarity is it's impeccable, really beautiful, very well filtered. So very pale intensity, a straw yellow color, bit of effervescence, and impeccable clarity. Second thing we do when evaluating wine is we sniff it, and I could already smell it once I gave it a pour, and I was holding it away from me, and I got that waft of that aroma, so I'm really excited for this. But let's go ahead and give it a sniff. Really good, really, really good. So right off the bat, green fruit, green apple, gooseberry, got 'em. Florals, jasmine. It was aromatic and perfumey, but not too intense. And then there was honeycomb, which is to say I've got the sort of smell of that honey and that propolis, a little bit of wax in there. Really sort of a rounded sweet, so I liked that. And then finally I did get that white pepper, which made me very happy. I love a little bit of spice. And the intensity of the nose is intense. It is a very intense nose. I could hold it like right here, and I'm getting wafts of it, and there's like that much in this glass, so that's really impressive. But yes, there's the nose. And now we get to everyone's favorite part. We are going to evaluate the palate, so let's give it a sip. Okay, so I could taste everything that I smelled, which is awesome. We love to see it. It was very high acidity, definitely made me pucker, made me salivate, very refreshing. It was crisp. It felt light-bodied. It really didn't linger very long. It kind of had a short finish, so that was interesting. And it was dry, and the alcohol felt medium, so it didn't feel very high. And I think we're at 12%, so that is medium alcohol. Yeah, it was very good, very interesting, I will say. This is a really interesting wine. I think what makes it so is the fact that it was so intense on the nose, but when I, tasted it, it didn't last as long on the palate. Usually I find that the more intense the aroma, the longer it lingers on my palate, but that wasn't the case for this one, so that was interesting. It was pretty good. I would say that this is, in terms of quality, it's a commendable wine. Especially considering the price. I do find that this is something that, again, I would, with a lot of white wines, I pair them with lighter foods. I see this one working better, actually really well, with salad and seafood and vegan food. Like there's like tempeh, I think it's called. I see this working very, very well with a lot of vegan dishes, which I don't know exactly why my mind went there, but that's what I see. So, with most wines, a lot of people like to pair wine with cheese. However, this is a wine that I would not put with dairy. Oddly enough, I don't think that it would complement it well. I think the dairy would be sweeter than this. So I would pair it with sort of bitter green salads. A very bitter green I think would work very well with this. And I see it working pretty well with a lot of vegan dishes. I see it working very well with like a tempeh or a tofu kind of dish, just because I think that they have the right balance and flavor for this Grüner Veltliner. So if you are vegan, I would say give this a try. I think it would complement a lot of vegan meals very well. So there you go. So I see myself drinking this wine after doing two very specific things, and that is hiking and all the way up to some peak, like not like a really high one, but like hiking all the way up to the top of some rock formation and then coming down, dunking in the river, and then walking to the nearest restaurant and plopping down in the outdoor chairs, dripping wet, and then ordering one of these. That is what I see. And unfortunately, I live somewhere very, very dry, so I can't exactly do that. But in my head, that's where I am right now, and it's magical. This was fun. I really did appreciate this particular Grüner Veltliner for the reason that while it's technically like Austria's poster child after Riesling, it ignores political borders and does well where it wants. I've always appreciated that about certain things. It used to confuse the heck out of me when, growing up and trying to learn about how, cultures are sort of shared and influenced where crops would grow. I was like, what do you mean it doesn't grow in this specific region? It's like, no, crops do not care. Vegetation does not care. It will grow where it wants to grow, with or without your political borders. And so it gets to be something that we share across cultures, and I do find that really awesome. Especially since, it does not exist in a vacuum. We do not exist in a vacuum. And the fact that this Grüner Veltliner was from Hungary, I think really attests to that. So that's my soapbox. I'll get off of it now. So thank you for joining me for this episode of Wine Reform. If you like what you saw, you learned something new, like how to pronounce Petch, then, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon, because I do release videos every other week. Then maybe it'll be a little harder to find them. So if you hit the bell icon, then you will be notified when I do release them, and then you get to watch them as we go. That makes sense. It does. I think it does. Whatever. Anyway, I am curious because I pronounced words with very German pronunciations, and I pronounce words with very Hungarian pronunciations. Code switching, even in the slightest form, can be difficult. So what is the most difficult to pronounce word you have found when you are exploring the world of wine? I'm very curious. Maybe we can help each other learn how to pronounce these things, or maybe we can just bond over the fact that none of us can pronounce a particular word. So what is something that has been impossible for you to pronounce related to wine? But with that aside, it has been a blast, and I will see you guys again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.